Hey everybody, welcome back to Build It with Tim. On this week's episode, we are building a full company portal slash ERP, and we're going to be using the entire Tadabase platform to do this, including the data builder and the page builder. So just to give you a little bit of history about myself, we'll have story time with Tim this week. Before I started with Tadabase, I was working with my family and our family business. Our family business was an event. We worked in the event industry, specifically with professional display fireworks. Okay, so we would travel around the state putting on professional fireworks displays, and we you needed a system to track all of that. Okay, so to manage all of that, as well as our part-time employees who functioned like field service employees. Okay, they were off-site employees, they were part-time employees. They would travel to these shows, to these fireworks shows. They would help set them up, they would put on the display, and then they would go home. Okay, so that we only had a certain number of on-site employees, and then we had a large number of off-site employees that functioned like field service workers. Okay, so when I first started building this application, I learned a lot about database structures, database architecture, how to build actual these front end pages using the database system, and it was incredibly beneficial to go through that process. And it's been a while since I've actually kind of revisited that original application that I built 3, 4 years ago, however long ago it was. Um, so I thought it would be a nice fit for Build It with Tim so that I could kind of talk about some of the features that may have not been covered in previous episodes of Build It with Tim. And a lot of those features are kind of like specific to individual components, or, only really kind of surface once you start building out a large scale application. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're going to be doing this week. I'm going to show you a little sampling of the finished application, and then we'll go and start talking about how we're actually going to build this thing and all of the pieces and components and parts that make up the whole application. All right, so let's take a little small look at the finished application, and then I'll meet you in the builder. All right, so while I can't show you everything that we have fully built out here, I want to give you a brief overview of what the finished application kind of looks like. Okay, so you can see we have a lot of different menu items, and all of these let us directly modify or manage our data tables directly. So whether we want to create, update, or delete those particular records in those tables, we can do so from the pages above. We've built out a dashboard page here as an administrator of the application or the organization to get a good snapshot overview, be able to filter all of our events based on different criteria, and have all of the components below our search component here just update automatically with our values. So if we wanted to search for um, events that are during the current year, then everything updates accordingly. And then we could go view that information specifically on the event details page. Now, the event details page contains the bulk of our information pertaining to an event. In this case, you can see like our schedule records, customer information, documents that are uploaded, and notes that are uploaded. And I've built this using a tab system that is available. It's a low-code solution that's available through our Knowledge Center. And I've implemented that here just to give a cleaner user interface. If I continue on from here, like after an event actually takes place, we also have the ability to manage payroll, which is all done through the actual scheduling records themselves, where we can look at any unpaid show or event in this case, and we can, when there is actual people assigned to it, we can, let's see if I can find one quickly that does, we can pay this and mark it as paid. Okay, and then we have the ability to also run reports here by looking at these grouped tables based on whether they're grouped by employee or by event. Okay, so if I actually go and then I log out and I log back in as an employee, okay, because this type of application is built primarily for internal employees or like on-site office employees and off-site employees to work cohesively and together, right, through some sort of field services industry, then the employees or these offsite employees have the ability to log into the application, view totals of their events worked year to date, how much they've earned year to date, any upcoming events that they can modify with the status saying, yes, I can attend, or no, I can't work that event, and also look at their recent events, including payroll. Okay, and when we go and we view that the details of that event, you can kind of see a similar setup to what we saw through the admin detail page here, but this obviously contains a lot less information, only the information that pertains to that employee. Okay, so the a brief overview of the actual event details, the show or event location, and then the other people or users who are scheduled to that same event with their contact information. All right, so there's a lot to do in this video. It's going to be a long one, but hopefully it's worth it. All right, so we'll jump back to the builder and we'll get started. So first, I wanted to cover the data tables that I had used, and a lot of these are the original data tables that I had used from again 3-4 years ago, but they still apply now. So I've modified them slightly so that I can discuss them here. But again, we were in the event industry. We put on the professional fireworks displays for local municipalities like towns, cities, fire departments, sporting events, weddings, private events, right? You name it. If people wanted fireworks, we'd be the ones to put them on. All right. So we had our table that we use to track all of our events. In our case, we call them shows, right? Fireworks shows. But this is equivalent to events or jobs, whatever it may be. Okay, so let's go through the actual fields here that were built into this table. And this starts with the auto increment. Okay, so this was just for internal tracking purposes, right? Where every event would have its own unique ID. Next, we have something called the show ID, which in this case was a text formula that was the show name and the date. Okay, because a lot of times there were sporting events where the name of the event was the same. The only unique difference was the date. So we combine the two, make them into a show ID using a text formula. Okay, show date and show name. Okay, then we have a bunch of connections here. It looks like 4 connections on this table. We have a connection to our customer. So who is the actual customer for the event? Who is the contact for the event, right? And these are connection fields that connect to these 2 tables, customer and contacts. Then we have the show name and the show date. This is an actual text and date field. The start time, so what time is the actual crew going to arrive on site to begin their work? The physical address of this particular event. Who is the salesperson, which is a connection to the users table. And then a bunch of different status fields, and some other properties of the actual event, like contract price, the contact status, when it was received, when the contract was received, rather, the invoice permit status, right, permit for every single event that we did. And this would probably be true if you worked in the construction industry as well, or something similar, is that every event or job that we did, we needed a permit from that local municipality. Okay, so the labor paid, I'm going to talk more about once we start building this out, but the way that I handled this, and I'll talk about it in the schedule table here, is that I do not have a specific table for payroll records. Okay, payroll records are the same as schedule records. Okay, so this is on the show level. We want to know, has all of the labor been paid for that particular event? How many employees have been scheduled? And then some utility stuff like when the record was created and who created the record. Okay, so moving on to the schedule table here. This is a join table, meaning it has a connection between 2 different tables that allows us to create a unique record based on the 2 connections. Okay, so we have a connection to the event and we have a connection to the user. So when we're talking about what this record actually means, this record means who is scheduled to which event. All right, it's a combination of those 2 connections that make up the actual schedule record itself. Okay, so again, we have auto increment, then we have a connection to that event table, and then we have a connection to the users table as the assigned crew. So who is assigned to this show? Okay, And then we are pulling in a couple values here: show name, show date, when things were paid, what is their role on the event, your status. This allows the actual employee or user, right? Because this is not only an internal application, but it also extends to those offsite part-time employees so that they can go onto the application, whether it's on their computer or mobile device, and view their schedule, payroll records, things like that. So all of this stuff is contained here. Okay, so the reason why that I built the payroll system directly into the scheduling system is because of how a payroll table would look when we compare it to the schedule table. So if I were to build a schedule table, okay, like we're talking about now, we would have a connection to the show or event, a connection to the user for who is assigned, the name of the show, the date of the show, whatever. I mean, all of those things would be on the schedule table. Now, if we also create a payroll table, chances are good that those are all going to be duplicate values, because for every payroll record, we want to know who got paid, why they got paid, meaning what event did they get paid for, and then all of their payroll information, right? How much did they get paid? So just based on those two kind of redundant connections, the connection to the event and the connection to the user, if those are going to exist in both the schedule table and the payroll table, then I can just merge them. All right. So those two tables would have duplicate connections. I'm just going to put them all in one. That way, when somebody goes and views their schedule, they can see their upcoming events. And then when they look at their past events, they can also see um, the payroll field values or record values that have been since been applied to that record. Okay. Next is the customer and contact table, which are very basic. Customer is just a name and address and an ID, and contacts is all of the same kind of information, personal information about that contact with a connection to the customer itself. Next is a table for documents to be uploaded. Okay, so for every event that you may be doing, or what job, again, whatever it is for your particular organization, there's likely to be many documents that go along with that. Okay, so we're going to store them here in a separate table so that we can give them a specific name. We can identify what the document type may be. Okay, is it a contract? Is it a permit? Is it a annual review? I mean, it could be any type of document, but we can identify it specifically on a per record basis here in this specific table. And then this also has a connection that goes back to the event, right? So everything is going to end up tying back to this event. The event is going to be a parent record for pretty much everything that we see here in this application. Again, notes, connection to the event. So for every event has multiple notes. Okay, who added the note is a connection to the user. Who modified the note is a connection to the user. Who this note may be assigned to is a connection to the user. And whether or not we want to assign it as a task or a note or just a comment, whatever we want to do. Again, this is kind of a similar concept to the schedule and payroll conversation, right? Should it be two different tables or just one? I made one table called notes, and within that particular notes table, we have records, and then each record can be further defined as a type of note. So is it a task? Is it a comment? Is it something else that's actionable? Is it not actionable? Right? I don't need a table for notes and a table for tasks unless you wanted to build out a more complex like task management system on top of it. But for now, all I really need is, what type of note is it? And do I want to assign it as a task? So if it is assigned to a task, then that person can then check it off saying that they did it. And then we have another table here of documents that I might not actually use for this. So let's just skip over that for now. Yeah, let's actually delete this. We don't need this table right now. Okay, so that is the overview of the data tables, although I realized I didn't talk about the users themselves. The users table, pretty basic. ID, name, email, right? We have work type, whether you're full-time, part-time. And then the only kind of specific thing here is we have this was specific to the industry that I was working in, but this was, you had if you had a certain certification or qualification to be a lead operator of the event, or a driver for the event. So the driver would have to maintain a specific license with specific endorsements in order to actually drive the vehicle for this event. So those two things were tracked on the user record. All right, and then some complex formulas here, or counts rather, of how much they've earned, so how much they've actually paid, which is a count of the schedule and payroll records, and then how many shows have they or events have they actually worked based on how when they were assigned. Okay, so that comes from the assigned crew field here. So count the users based on that field. Okay, so anyways, let's go into the page builder now and start to actually build out or shape rather, like how this whole application is going to look. Okay, so we have, let me go into my user roles real quick. Okay, we have 3 user roles. The 2 that are most important to me are admin and employee. Admin being like on-site internal office staff, and employee in this case is going to be the off-site employees. Okay, so we're going to base our application around those 2 user roles, and we're going to start by creating 2 different layouts, one for each. So admin layout, and we'll select this third one here, the menu, breadcrumb, and user menu. And then we'll add another layout called employee layout. Okay, so we have these 2 layouts. One is going to be specific for admins, one is going to be specific for those um, offsite employees. Okay, so what do we want to do, or what kind of access do we want to give to admins? So in our case, it's going to be everything, right? And in most cases, probably an admin is going to have access to everything. So I guess it's worth mentioning at this point that a lot of things that I'm going to be talking about today are going to be maybe could be summed up as like best practices for building. Okay, so when you are building an application in this style where you're kind of using the user roles as a basis for your page structure, then it's a best practice normally to add parent level pages for all of your tables, right? So an admin is going to be able to create, update, delete users, create, update, delete shows, create, update, schedule, right? They're going to be able to create, update, and delete everything from your data builder, right? In most cases. So I'm going to start by doing that. I'm going to add pages for all of the tables that we actually have. So users, I'll be more specific and call it employees, and we're going to make sure that's on the admin layout, and we're going to add it to the admin menu. And then we're going to just start adding those tables. So here, we're going to turn on the forms for this, right? We're going to select that option to include a form to add a new user, show, contact, whatever it is. But I'm going to come back to the details pages later. So events. Okay, so we'll just go through and add all of this. And this is going to give us all of the parent level pages that we need. Customers, we're going to do customers slightly different here, where we're going to add the parent page for customers and the ability to add a new customer, but then we're not going to do a parent page for contacts. I mean, I guess we could, or I could just do it directly on the customer detail page, because that connection between contacts and customers is, it's like a little bit more isolated. I don't know if that's the best word to use, but it's a little bit more isolated in the sense that like a contact is always going to connect to a customer, and if a new contact were to be added, then it's likely going to go through the customer first. A customer is going to call and say, "Hey, I need to add this. I have a new employee, whatever it is." So let's put we're going to add that here. So we're going to select this data source. So we can take a look at these options for just a moment. Since we're on a customer detail page, we have a whole bunch of different options based on the connections that are available with customers. And also connections that are related to this customer. So in this case, we want to show contacts that are directly connected to this customer. We don't want to do anything with this that's a relationship. Relationship meaning, or related meaning, that it is a table removed from the actual connection to customers. So if you look at notes, we could show notes that are related through the shows connection because shows connect to both customers and to notes. But in this case, we're just going to do records directly connected to this customer. We're going to choose contact. Okay, and we can add this information, and then we'll turn on the add new record pop-up here to add a new contact. All right, so if from an admin perspective, when somebody wants to add a new contact, they're going to go to the customers page first, find that customer, go to the details, then add the contact. All right, moving on. What's next? So we have, we could do, I guess we could do a table of documents too. That's fine. And what was the last one? Oh, notes. Okay. All right. So, all right, going back from the top now, we have employees with the ability to add a new user. So if you have a new employee, then you can add them here. And then events. So this is going to be like our main kind of our main table that we're going to come back to frequently through the admin layout. Okay, so this is going to make more sense in a minute. I'm a couple steps ahead of myself here. Let's turn on the detail page for this table, okay? So we're going to go into this table and we're going to go to links and choose record detail, okay? And we're going to save that. That's going to create a detail page that exists directly underneath the main events page or the main shows data table. Now, the other page that I'm going to add here is like somewhat of like a dashboard. So like an admin dashboard that's going to allow us to view things at a glance, whether that's like, hey, how much payroll is due this week? How many shows or events do we have this week? Do we have any new notes that need admin attention, right? Things like that. So we're going to build that page. And one of the things that's going to exist on this page, which I don't know if I'm really quite ready to build out the dashboard page yet, but if we wanted to show, let's say, all of the events that were this week, so we could filter this and say, events or the show date is during the current week. Then if we wanted to then go view details of that show, we're going to use a connected page link, and we're always going to go back to that main show details page that we just made. So the events page and show details detail page. So what that means now is that the link here of show details is always going to bring us back to this page. It's a connected page link because the detail page actually lives on a different under a different parent page, but has the same data source. Okay, I'll say that again. A different parent page. So dashboard and events are two different parent pages. The details page lives under the events parent page, and we can reference that from the dashboard parent page because the shows table here and the shows table here are the same data source. They're showing information from the same data table. Okay, so we'll come back to this dashboard later on, but we're going to show a bunch of information here. Okay, so the employee layout, let's stick with the admin layout for now. Let's stick with the admin layout. So we want to make sure that all of our data is getting populated correctly now, and then we'll display all that information to the employees or part-time offsite people later. Okay, so our dashboard, right? Let's get rid of this table and start to think about this from scratch. So we can add users or employees. That's good. The show details, that's going to be a big page to build. So maybe we could do that now. Okay, so show detail. Okay, so there's a lot of important information that we want to see about any given event. And a lot of that comes from the actual show record or event record itself. but a lot of it's also going to be connected stuff. So here, let's sorry, I deleted the whole detail component. I'm adding it back just because I can kind of start from with a blank canvas. But we want to see show name, show date, start time, and how about physical address? And then we'll add another column here to put more contract price, and then we'll do, how about all of the kind of contract and show information or event and like status stuff here. Yeah, let's do that for now, and maybe I'll add one more. We'll put the salesperson here. Um, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this should line up pretty well. So we'll call this event detail. How about information? Event information. Okay, and now there's a whole bunch of different tables that we want to show for this, which is going to be our who is scheduled for the event. So we want to add the schedule records that are connected here. Okay, the your status field, this was going to be used for the employee to modify. So the employee, once they're assigned to a show, they can then log in and confirm or deny that, I guess, that perfect or particular assignment. Um, so I'm going to put this here, but I'm actually going to change the field name or the display name for the field rather, because it's going to, your status isn't really applicable for an administrator looking at this. Um, so we'll just call this employee status instead. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of the show ID and I'm going to put the show. I'm going to leave them both off, right? We're on the event details, so we know the name of the event and the date of the event. So we're going to leave them both off this table for now. And we're going to add a form next to this. So I have an idea in my head of what I want to do here. And I'm gonna show you this in a minute. But here we're gonna be able to add new schedule records. So we added a form, and we're gonna choose add a new schedule connected to the show using the show ID field. Okay, and here we're gonna select the assigned crew, and their role. Okay, and then we're gonna add a rule here. Okay, because on my schedule table, you can see I have a connection to the show, but then I also have the show name, show date. Um, Show name and show date text and date fields. I'm going to pull those in from the actual show or event record. Um, and rather than doing it here, actually, I'm going to go back and let's add a table rule at this point. So we want to do that every time a schedule record is created or edited. So I'm going to build at the table level, so that way I can it's a catch-all, right? It doesn't matter if I have one form to create or one form to edit, or if I have 10, then every single time I do this, it's going to reset those values. So show name and show date, it's going to come from a connected value of the show's connected show name and the connected show date. All right, so that's great. I can do that now, and that table rule is enabled. And now when that schedule record gets added, then we'll have that name and date added to the schedule record. Okay, and then I'll move the form to the left here. Okay, so here's what I wanted to do for, this was my idea for the detail page, right? Because there's going to be a lot of information. We're going to be looking at, for every single event that we're going to be looking at, we're going to have that kind of schedule section. right, of the who's assigned and a form to add new assignments. We're also going to have information about the customer, information about the contact, information about the any documents that are uploaded, and any information about notes. So we have 5 things that we want to put on here, and rather than have this all kind of in this vertical scrolling page, we're going to implement a tabbed system, and I'm going to pull up that document from our knowledge center right now. All right, so this is a cool article here about adding tabs to our application, and this comes from an external library known as Materialize CSS. All right, so here's a little example of what that tab system is going to look like, and it's pretty simple to implement. All we really need to do is copy and paste a bunch of values. And that's it. So we're going to go, this was the, let's see, this is the CSS that we're going to put in the header section of our application because we want it to apply globally. Okay, so you can see that I could take the CSS and I could apply it on specific pages or page layouts, or here in the settings, custom header footer section, um, this will apply throughout the application. So everywhere. It's a global, the most global setting or place for custom code that we have. And then the next piece that I need is a script that's going to load the JavaScript library. That's going to go in the custom footer section. The actual HTML for the tabs is going to go on the page where we want the tabs. So in this case, it's going to be on the show detail page. So I'm going to add a row in between these two. I'm going to add an HTML component, go to the source code, and paste that in. Now, before I leave here, what I'm going to do is change the values. So we need to change the where it says test 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we also need to change the values here and here. But it's pretty straightforward here. So this is going to be, let's do, the first thing we're going to display is schedule. All right, the next one we'll do, what is customer? Sorry, I don't need a capital there. I would like a capital here. This section here is like the ID. Okay, this is an ID kind of thing. Not specifically, but it's an ID. You could, for lack of a better term. And then here is the actual text that's being displayed. Okay, and so we'll do schedule customer. What was the other one? Documents. Yeah, documents. And notes. How about that? I keep doing capital there. Notes, and notes. Okay, so you can see now that our list has actually changed. And then the way this tab system works is it modifies the way that this bulleted list actually looks once we load the app. So we have schedule, customer, documents, and notes. All right, so we'll do that, and then the last thing we need to do is we need a little bit of JavaScript, which is listed here. This is going to allow us to basically make the tabs work. So we're going to have to change our IDs here a little bit, but we're going to change this. This is going to be, what was the first one? Schedule, customer, documents, and then we'll copy this one. So we have 4 tabs, and this one will be notes. Now, the neat thing we can do here is we can actually use a custom CSS class instead. So schedule, sorry, looking at the wrong one. Schedule, and this is going to be the CSS class for a row on our page builder. Customer, documents, and notes. All right, now the last thing we'll do is we'll go into our page builder again and we'll add that custom class to our row. Okay, so this is going to be schedule. All right, so let's preview this page just so I can show you what we have so far. All right, so here is, we don't have any events, so let's just add one now. Test. All right, here's our tabs that we just implemented, right? And because this row that the form and the table were inside of has a custom class, and we put that into the JavaScript, you can see now when I go to a different tab, that's hidden now. So, right, the customer information will be here, documents, notes, it'll all be there. All right, so we'll do that. And now we'll just keep building out this particular detail page. So this is going to be, what do we have? We want customer information. So in this case, we're going to do detail of customers. And how about right next door to it, we'll add another column. And here we'll put a detail of a contact. So the contact that is also assigned for this show. So each event is obviously going to have a customer attached to it or connected to it because the customer is the one who's paying for the event. And then we're also going to have a contact listed so that whoever's doing the event knows who to contact. So we'll have contact name, email, that. Okay. Oh, and we'll give these titles. So customer and contact. And then again, for my little tab system here, we're going to call this custom CSS class for the row customer. Okay, and then the next row we're going to do, this is going to be called, I think documents came next. Documents, and then while we're here, let's just add another row and call it notes so we don't forget. Notes. All right, documents is going to be set up in a similar fashion to schedule, right? So we're going to have uploaded documents. It's going to be here where we're going to have this information for documents, and then right next to it, we'll have a form to add a connected document. Okay, and then here we're going to add a rule where we're going to say, sorry, where was I? We were adding a rule here to set the created on, set the created on, no, you know what? We're going to do that as well from table rule. So let's go back to tables, uploaded documents, and we will set that as a rule as well. Okay, so a lot of the stuff I'm going to set from table rules because it's very likely that in an application that's at this scale, which even the app I'm building now is probably not this as large of a scale as an actual like in production app may be. But we are going to set this from a table level because we're likely going to have many different locations where records could be created or edited or both. So we will do created on. It's going to be set to current date and time. And show name and show date. Again, we're going to pull in these values in case we need these raw text values from that connected show event. Okay. Okay, back to the detail page that we're working on, show details. Okay, so we have to resize this column so that it fits here. Okay. And then last but not least is the notes. Okay, so we're going to add a form to add a new note. And this one, we're going to have the note type and the actual note itself. And then we're going to add these two assign as task and assigned to here. we're going to add those fields, but we're going to use the display rule to hide the assigned to field if this is not selected as yes. So we'll do display rule and say assign as task is, we'll just do blank. And if it's blank, then we'll hide the assigned to field. Otherwise, we'll show it. Okay, we're going to resize this column to 4, and then we'll add a column to the right, make this one 8 so that we have the right sizing here. And then this will be all of our connected notes. And let's see, we could do, let's add a detail page for this particular note so that because there's a lot of information that could be on a particular note. So we'll choose show and pop up for this detail page. And the only other thing I might do is, no, that's fine. We'll leave that there. All right, and then we'll just, we'll do our note detail page real quick, our pop-up for this, and this is going to be the do date added, note type note, then we'll do added by, modified by, last modified, and then assigned to and task complete. Okay, so that's going to be, excuse me, all of the information that we need for the note detail. Now, back to, again, more table rules for the notes. So we're going to add one, right? This when it's created, we're going to set the date time to the current date time. We're going to do the added by, we're going to do logged in user. And that's it for created. Now, edited, we're going to do something different. So when it's edited, we're going to choose modified by to logged in user and last modified time to current date and time. And then what other values do we have that we could set here? I think that's all we need for now. Okay. Awesome. So let's take a look at that detail page again, where we have our show or event, we have the detail, and now we have our schedule records here. We have the customer and contact information here, which obviously we don't have any at the moment. Documents. And notes. Okay, so I see a couple things that I want to change here. Number one being I want to turn off the back to link on all of these forms. We have the breadcrumbs up here that could take us back to events, and then we also have the events menu link here. So we're going to turn off the back to on all of these forms, and that's located in the options tab here for each form. So we'll go ahead and turn all that off. One, two, three. I think I got them all. Let's take a look at this. Okay, hidden, that doesn't have a form. Good. Okay, the other thing I wanted to add is the ability to edit the entire show. Now I could do that in a, or edit the entire show or event record, okay? I suppose I could do that one of two ways. I could add another tab to my tab system here, and I could put a big edit form on it. Or I could have an edit button from the show detail. And I think I don't know. I just don't know what I want to do. How about we do an edit pop-up from the detail page itself? So we'll add an edit link, and maybe we'll just put this in its own row. Okay, we'll make this really pronounced here by making it a button, and we're going to have it be block. Okay, so the difference between inline and block is inline means it's just the button's going to be essentially the width of the text inside. Block means it's going to take up the full width, and we'll make it a little bit larger. So we'll make it a medium, and we'll have this be we'll do the warning color to kind of contrast a bit. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna do this, I think. Edit, edit show, I guess we could call this, or edit event record. I don't know. We could call it whatever we want, but we'll do that. Oh, and the last thing I'm gonna do is just personal preference. I'm gonna hide the title because the title and the button text are gonna be the same. So I'm gonna hide that, and we can go back here. And now we should have this big button here to edit the event record itself. And then it takes us to a form where we can edit all of that show or event information. So let's go and work on this now, where we have let's see, let's organize this a little bit. Show name, show date, um, contract. Now we'll do all the contract stuff together. So the show name, date, customer, salesperson. So the contact, salesperson, start time, and then we'll have, how about the physical address can be here, and then we'll do contract price, contract status, invoice, permit, labor. We want to actually keep some of this stuff off. So when it was created and when it was added, or who added it, we're actually going to leave that off. Um, okay, so this will let us edit the actual event record itself, but there's a couple of things we want to change on here. Actually, just one at the moment, and that is when we're selecting the customer and then selecting the contact, we only want to show contacts that are connected to this form's customer. So we can only select a contact when it belongs to a particular customer. So we'll set that as a dependent dropdown, save this, and now we're good to go. Okay, so let's refresh this page. Um, yeah, awesome. And then let's see. Okay, so there's a couple other like personal preferences, I suppose, that we have here. So in the topic of like workflows and how people actually interact with this application and the user experience of the application, I just had this thought about, well, the contact. So let's say we have an event that's scheduled, okay, and customer calls and says, hey, the contact that you had for this event has just found a new job or something, is no longer working with us, and we want to give you a new contact. Then if the contact was already scheduled or added to an event record, then you may like just instinctually like navigate to the event and then edit that event and try to select a new contact. But if that contact doesn't exist yet, then in order to make a new one, you'd have to go to customers, edit your customer, go to customer details, and then add here. Let's do this. Customer A. We'd have to go to the details here and then add the contact here. So contact, whoops, contact A. Okay, or I think it would make more sense if you can go to the edit and then add add a new contact directly from this dropdown. So we're gonna do that now. We're gonna enable that directly from this connection field. So to do that, we're going to edit the connection field and enable the option that says allow inserting a new contact, right? And that will create an additional form that lets us add a new contact. Okay. I think this is what we want. Yeah, okay. So good. This will let us actually add a new contact. And then the other thing I had on here, which was a primary, this field called primary. This was an option field that allows us to designate when there's multiple contacts per customer, which one is the primary. Um, so that if we were, selecting a contact, then we'd be able to see who is primary and who is not. Okay, so we can try to build that in if we need it. So right now, let's just go back to what we have here, try to think through this and make sure that our workflows are kind of making sense. So we have events. We need to, let's clean up this form first. So add a new event. Let's clean this form up. So we're going to show name, show date, start time, customer contact, set the dependency of the contact to only show based on this form's customer. We could also, let's do this too. Let's enable adding a new customer here and adding a new contact here. Sweet, okay. And then we can do the salesperson. Right, okay, another thing to change here. When we are selecting a salesperson, this is a connection to the user. Okay, so when we or users table. So let's say we have 200 user records in our users table. When we select or click on this drop down to select a user, we're actually going to see all 200, but we don't want to do that. We want to filter it where a role is salesperson. And we need to do that on the edit form as well. So then we're going to do contract price, physical address, and that's it. We'll add some rules at the table level. So before we do that, we'll go back to the edit show page here. Salesperson, filter, only show users where the role is salesperson because we don't want to select anybody else if they're not a salesperson. Okay, and then on our shows table, we'll add that rule to say created. We're going to set created date to current date and time and added by to logged in user. All right, so now I think we're in a pretty good spot to kind of move on to something else. Right, okay, so we don't actually have any users yet. We do have the customer and contact, which is good. We have the ability to add a new customer and add a new contact. All right, so let's go through our pages now. So now we have the ability to add new users. All right, so this is going to be our first user. This is a full-time employee. We can pick anything. Say yes, they're a lead operator. They are an employee and they are also a salesperson. Or for simplicity's sake, we'll just do salesperson. How about that? So this is just a salesperson. Okay, then we'll do this is an admin. An employee record. Whoops, I did not do a did not do an email, but that leads me to my next point is that we also need the ability for all of these other parent pages to edit the records, okay? Because part of the requirements here is to create, which we have done with the add forms here, but we also need to update or edit. So we're going to go into each one of these now and start adding some edit links. We'll show this in a pop-up because it's a little bit easier, and for now we'll just leave everything on the form so that we can just kind of move on from it. Customer, right? We can create, but we also want to be able to edit. So same thing, edit link, show and pop up. And on the customer details, we have the contact. So edit link, show and pop up. Documents. Documents, we're going to do this. We're going to do two things. We are going to give the ability to edit, but we also want to give the ability here to delete. So customers and employees and contacts, I guess we could also give the ability to delete, but I'm not super concerned with it right now. Notes, and sorry, I guess more context there. The only reason I'm not super concerned with it now is because, well, documents and notes, I'm okay with giving the ability to delete at this point, but things like actual event records, customers, contacts, a lot of those are going to be historical, right? So, and users, employees too. So depending on like your record keeping and stuff, like when um, a lot of those are going to be historical, even though a customer or a contact may not be active anymore, you might not want to actually delete them from your database itself. You want to likely hang on to them for a little while in case they come back around. Or become relevant again through some other purpose. But here we're going to add for notes and documents, right? We're going to add the edit and the delete links. Okay. Um, okay. All right. Now I think we're ready to kind of move on to other things. So now we can edit this particular user, put in that email that I missed. All right. I didn't actually do passwords for any of these people yet, so they can't log in. But now we have our events. And let's add a new one that's like a little bit more uh, legitimate here. So the name of the event would be, I don't know, we'll call this Town Festival. We'll have this be, this will be, how about the 4th of July? So that we're scheduling this out quite a ways, but 4th of July, 2023. Start time will be um, this is again, this is going to be the start time for like the actual event for our internal purposes, not like, hey, what time does the fireworks start? Customer, so we have customer A, contact A, salesperson is John Doe. You see how it did not show me all three users, it only shows me John Doe because John Doe is a salesperson. Contract price, we'll do, how about $10,000? Physical address, we'll do 123 Fake Lane again. Okay. Great. Now we have this information, and now this is going to start to look a little bit more populated, right? Where now we can assign crew members here. We have the customer contact information, and we have the document section and the notes section. One other thing I suppose we could do from this point is the customer and contact. If we wanted to edit them directly from the show detail page, because I'd imagine that most organizations using an application like this are going to spend the bulk majority of their time inside of this kind of detail page with all of the information or relevant information here. So we'll go to show detail. And to do that, real simple, we're going to go to each detail component and we're going to enable inline editing so that we can actually edit that customer and contact record directly from the detail page or detail component on the detail page rather. Okay, once that's saved, we'll go back here and refresh. Customer. All right, so we didn't give them an email, so we can do that here. So contact at email.com. Great. Phone. And well, they have the same. All right, so now all that information is filled out. Now if we want to upload documents too, then we can do that. So we're going to upload You could select the document that you'd like and the document type and upload those documents, and then the notes. We need to test this out a little bit. So let's say this is like a salesperson note, and say we want to send this. This is going to the salesperson. So we're going to do what do we want to say? We want to, I don't know, this is just a test note. Let's say we assign it as a task, and then we want to assign it to somebody. So um, here's what we need to do for this. We can clean this up a little bit and do the note details, the note form. All right, assigned to. So let's see. I'm just thinking about how we could, if the note type is a salesperson note, then only assign it to people. But um, there's so many different note types. I guess what I thinking in a more generic sense is if we wanted to limit it to roles where like it's not like the offsite employee or the part-time employee. Um, We'll do that for now. I guess I'm just envisioning that this is the notes are only going to be for like internal people, so salespeople or admins. So we'll just do that, and then to make it a little easier to see who has what role, we can enable the list view on the connection. This connection field style. We'll do list view, and we can do the name and the role, so we can display those two fields there. Um, Okay, so that's going to look different now when we go back to this particular page in this form. So we have notes, assign as task, and then we can see, okay, so John Doe is a salesperson. That's what we want to assign it to, and test note. All right, so this is great. So now we have all of this information here. We can see our note here. We can see it's assigned to John Doe. All right, now let's work on the dashboard and one other page for now. Okay, so the dashboard is actually going to be pretty straightforward where we're going to essentially this is going to work like a big filtered page. So we're going to search for shows, right? And we can put some information on here where we do like show name, show date, salesperson. We could put a whole bunch of filter criteria on here essentially. Okay, so we'll set this up in kind of this fashion where we'll just do multiple columns, two columns, show name, show date, salesperson. Anything else we want to do here? I think this is fine for now. And then what we're going to have below this is a bunch of stuff so we could do like three columns where we have different card calculations based on show values. So let's say this was going to be a formula of how many shows this week. Okay. Turn on auto refresh. So this will be like shows or number of shows. I guess we could do number of shows, and we can change the font size here. Let's do like 35. This card can be right for shows. We could say this can be, let's have this one be like total contract value. So for all of the shows that we find in our filters, we can do a sum of the contract price. And for this one, how about we do something like this, where we say count record where scheduled employees is lower than one. I guess we could either do like is zero, is blank. Let's just do lower than one. Okay, so this is going to be what this one is we have a complex formula that's counting, it's looking into the schedule table based on the show itself or the show record, and it's counting how many people are assigned to that particular show. So we could say uh, unscheduled events, and this will tell us like, hey, there's an event in the next week or something that doesn't have any people assigned to it. Okay, and then we'll have a table of shows. And I mentioned this kind of near the beginning of the video where we talked about having the show table. It has the same data source as our regular like events, main events page. Um, show name, show date, contract price. How about we just put a bunch of status fields on here? But rather than creating another detail page here, right? Because it took us a while. This video's been going for almost an hour of us building out this detail page. Then we don't want to rebuild it again just because we have another table with the same data source. We want to use a connected page link that's going to take us to that detail page we just worked on. We could do that here. Now, the last thing we need to do is go into the search results tab of our search component and enable all of these components that we just added to our dashboard. Okay, so now, granted, I have one event record here, two, sorry. Let's go back to our card here and add content prefix is going to be that. Okay. $sign. But the cool thing about the search component now is that if we wanted to filter out this information to say like, okay, well, let's look at any, or just our salesperson, right? If we wanted to look at, and I don't remember who the salesperson is, so we can go change. Okay, so we'll look at this. What's another good example? A salesperson is any. If we want to look at like the shows that's during or events during the current month, right? This gives us an overview, or would give us an overview once we actually had some data in here about how many events in the current month, what's the total contract value for the current month, and any events that don't have anything scheduled or any employees scheduled, or shows during this current month where the invoice status is paid, right? And we can search for those things and it will populate all of the actual event records based on that information. So that's going to be kind of the basis of our dashboard. And I'm going to go into my menu here and I'm going to move this page to the top. And maybe while I'm here, I'll just assign some icons here. So we can do something like this, dashboard. We can give this like a user icon. Events, how about a calendar? Customers, this will probably be like a users. Maybe I could do multiple customers. Or a little gear icon. Sure, why not? Documents, that one's going to be a document. And notes, I guess we could probably do the same, unless we did like a pen or something maybe. How about the chat bubble? And the only thing just because I'm being I want to be consistent here, we're going to give it the same style. So this darker filled style. All right, so now all of our menu items also have icons attached to them too. So cool. All right, I think I've said this 3 times already, but the last thing I want to add here to our admin section is a payroll system. Okay, so we talked previously about how schedule records, payroll records are one and the same. So we have the ability to assign users or employees to events now, but now we need a way to actually pay them. And I'm going to split this off from our regular detail page that we were just looking at. So it's not going to be, I'm not going to do it here. Maybe I will do it here. Yeah, let's do it there. Okay, so we're going to go back to our event detail page, show details, and no, you know what? Change my mind. We are going to do it from a separate parent page. So we're going to do payroll. And the reason being is because if we have, let's say there's a bunch of events that take place in the current week, then we want a place to view all of those events and pay them specifically, like in just a payroll kind of workflow. So we're going to do this just like this. And we are not going to show the actual schedule records yet at this point. What we're going to be doing is showing the event records with a detail page to show the schedule records. Okay, so this is going to be a table of events, and then we're going to filter those events to only show where the event date is today or before, okay? Because we're assuming that the event has happened and now we're paying our labor for them or our payroll for them. So we're going to filter the data source like that, but then we're going to add some filter tabs here to show unpaid events, meaning the, where is it? The labor paid is no. And then we'll do another tab that's going to be able to show us previous events where things are paid. So this will be paid, and this is obviously when labor paid is yes. Okay, so this is going to set up our again, we filtered the data source to only show us events that are in the past, and now we have filter tabs available to show us um, the events that we need to attend to now and ones that we have already done. All right, so on the detail page here, right, we're going to show our schedule records of who was actually assigned to the show. Let me get rid of the detail component. I don't think I need that right now, although I might bring it back later. But this is going to show the schedule records, but rather than, we're going to show more information than we did previously in our our main event detail page, where we're going to do the assigned crew, and we'll do, let me start in an order. So we'll do paid and date paid, okay, because these are going to be the payroll records. We want to know if this particular person has been paid and when they were paid. And then we're going to do the actual user, their role, and then all of this payroll information, including their hours worked, which is hours worked is a formula based on the start time, end time, and whether or not a break was included. Okay, and then we want an ability to edit um, edit the actual payroll record itself or the schedule record. Okay, so we're not adding new payroll records, we're editing the previous schedule record. And when we edit it, we're going, well, we'll just leave it to edit for now. When we edit it, we're going to input all of these values, right? The labor, driver, whatever needs to get paid on this particular event. Okay, and then we'll have an action link that will say click to pay. Okay, so this is going to be, we're going to update the schedule record to say that it's been paid. Custom value of yes, and date paid to current date. Yeah, current date. Okay. And now we're also going to add a rule to update the connected parent show or event. All right. And we are going to update this to labor paid. Now, I realize that this might be controversial in the sense that we are updating a parent status field from no to yes. And we're not really taking into effect that some of the schedule records might not be paid yet. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you're paying one, then the show has been paid. So if for some reason you were not paying a particular crew member for something, maybe there was an issue, they didn't show up, whatever it was, if anybody else on that particular show is getting paid, then the show is being paid or the event is being paid. And that's really like the kind of top level goal, right? Is that if anybody on that event is getting paid, then the event has been paid. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to say click to pay. We'll hide that title and let's make it a button. Okay. I think that works now. Let me go back through. I'm gonna get rid of our. This is our test one here. Okay. Labor paid is no. Okay. Great. Let's go preview this and take a look. So we have. This is under the unpaid filter tab here. So we'll go do this, and here is our information. So let's say. Ooh, yikes, I need to clean that up a little bit. I forgot about that. All right, so all this is going to be is assigned crew, the currency fields, start time, end time, break. Okay, and we're going to make the assigned crew read only so that we're not modifying who we're actually paying this for. All right, and let's go, whoops, wrong page. All right, and let's go ahead and pay Jim Doe here. So let's just say $100 for everything. Whatever, it doesn't make sense, but it's fine. We'll say, let's say they work 8 hours today, right? So 8 p.m. Okay, and yes, he had a break. And you'll see we factored in that break. Okay, so and you can set that equation however you may need it, but it can be useful. All right, so now when we click to pay this, then we could say date paid is yes, and or paid is yes, and the date paid is that. So if we go ahead and do the other one, let's say we'll do the same thing. We'll give them the same time. We had a yes or a break, yes. All right, so these are both now paid. And now if we go back to payroll, then you can see that this is now included under the paid tab as opposed to the unpaid tab. All right, now as far as reporting goes, what we can do is we can add pages where, let's say we wanted to do like payroll by event. Then we can add a table here of schedule records, and we could group this. Let's see, let's get rid of a bunch of stuff here. Okay, so because we passed the show name and the date here, we can add these here. Actually, let's just do by show ID because this is, we can group by the connection field there. So we'll do, then we can do the assigned crew, and how about we then just do total pay and hours worked. Okay, we'll add a summary here, and then we can group this to say we're grouping by the show ID, and we could give this a color if we wanted to, and group that. Okay, so now when we have a whole bunch of payroll records here, or schedule records, payroll records, same thing. We can go to our report page here and we can have everything grouped so that we know for this entire show or this entire event, we paid $500 and everybody worked 14 hours. Okay, so that's how we can start to build out reports. All right. I think it's important at this point to kind of move on from the admin side of things and start to work on the employee side of things. So this is going to be, let's see, like we'll call this employee dashboard. If I could spell dashboard. And this is going to go under the employee layout and the employee menu. Okay, so we're going to do something similar to our regular dashboard that we did for the admin, but this is going to be all information that pertains specifically to employees, part-time employees, right? The field services crew. So this is going to be, we want to show schedule records. whoops, I picked the wrong data source here. So we want to show like schedule records that are connected to the logged in user through the assigned crew. Right, so this is going to be the show name and the show date. And why don't we go to a, let's see, we could do a detail page. So we haven't actually made a shows. All right, let's leave this here for now. So under the employee layout, we're also going to add a, what do I want to say? A table of, events, but we're gonna lock this down actually. So we're gonna include a detail page here because we want the employees to be able to view the detail page, but we don't want them to view the actual events page. So we're gonna change the page security for this, and this is going to be only admins can see this parent page, but the detail page is going to be open. Um, and while I'm at it, I'm going to do some security on the layout of the admin layout so that only this is going to take effect on every page for this layout, but the employee layout, we're going to modify this a little bit different. We're not going to do layout level security here. We're going to do page level security here. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is, again, I have this dashboard where I'm showing schedule records, and I want to be able to show, here, let's change this so it's easier to see. Um, through connected page links, I can go from the schedule table here. I can go connected page, and I see I can have access to the show details page through that particular events page that I just made. So the idea here is we're showing schedule records that are connected to the logged in employee, and then they're able to then navigate to the show or the event in order to then view details of that event. So whatever information we want to show them, right, where it's like we want to show them, we can show them show information or event information, the date, the start time, the physical address, maybe who's the salesperson, but other stuff we don't want to show them. Like maybe we don't want to show them contract price or the actual status fields, anything like that. We just want to show them basic information. And then we could also show, um, let's see, we could show them the other schedule records. So who else, who are the other crew members that they're working with? And we could even pull in connected fields here to show like the user's phone number and email address or something. So if we wanted to allow them to actually, let's see, so I'm not logged in. Let's actually, who's scheduled to this? Let's take a look. Jim or John Doe. So if I go to Jim or John Doe, let's do Jim Doe. We need to set a password for them so they can log in. Let's also add phone numbers here, since we just added those to the page builder. All right, so right, we're going to log in. Also worth mentioning at this point that through the login page, we can add our redirect rules, which you can see I've already started here a little bit. If a role is employee, then we're going to send them to employee dashboard. If they're admin, they're going to go to the other dashboard page. So we'll log in here. What was it? Jim at test.com, I think. Did I do that right? They are an employee. Okay, so maybe I missed something, but we're going to go to the employee dashboard now that I'm logged in as Jim Doe. You can see I have this schedule that's assigned to me. And then when I go to the details, you can see I can see myself right here, but then the other users that are connected to this, as well as their information. So if we wanted to, call and chat, whatever, about the event that we were assigned to. The other thing that we can set up here that's very similar to the other dashboard that we have is the any particular like payroll information or like how much I've been paid or cards or anything like that that we want to show where we can get a grand total or an overview of things. So if we wanted to do, let's see, assigned crew is logged in user, and we wanted to sum the value of our total pay. Then we could do that here as well. So total pay, and this is going to be everything. So for every show that or event that we've worked, you can see how much we've been paid. All right, so we can build out this dashboard page to be as detailed as we want to. But the point here is that we have the ability to show all of these connected records and upcoming events and past events and all sorts of things based on data source filters and other conditions here as well. So in the interest of time, just because this video has already gone on for a very, very long time, I'm going to just skip ahead and just finish like polishing some of this up. And I'm going to come back and just show you kind of the finished product here, and then we'll wrap this up. All right. So I'm going to take a short break, and I'll be back with a more polished application here. Okay, so we are back and we have a more polished application at this point. I've added a whole bunch of data into our specific tables here that we have. And I just wanted to recap slightly before we go through the actual live application. Right, so we have two page layouts that are kind of dictated by the user roles that we have built into the application. So we have the admins and employees primarily. Okay, we do have another role here, but there's not really concerned with that when it comes to page layouts. Within the admin layout, we have a dashboard page, which contains a search component, 3 card components, and a table component. And when we filter the search component, the data reflected in the components beneath that will all change dynamically based on the selections that we use in the search component. Okay, so this gives all of your internal users with your organization a nice overview of all of the action that's taking place, right? So in this case, we have like the number of events, total contract value, any events that are unscheduled will allow you to kind of deep dive into those events and manage them appropriately. Okay, and then we have parent pages that were built based on our data table. So when I'm referring to parent pages, I'm referring to this top level page, employees, events, customers, documents. Okay, employees, in this case, users, events, shows, documents, customers, right? They're all of the actual data tables. And then from that point, we started to give the ability based on the requirements that we had for the application on whether or not admins can create, update, delete these particular records from those data tables. So events, yeah, certainly we want to create, update, not necessarily delete, I guess. I think we talked about that previously in the video, but something like documents, right? We want to be able to add documents and edit documents and delete documents. So that's all done from this one page. Okay, now, but something like the actual events, the details of that event is really where the majority of the information about that event lives, right? Who's scheduled for that event, what documents have been uploaded to that event, what customer is connected to that event, what contact is connected to that customer, what notes have been uploaded to that event. So the show details page in this case, or the event details page, is where all of this information is going to live. Okay, so you'll find that this particular section of the application under the events page is the most robust. Okay, it contains the most amount of information and the most amount of capability. All right, because most people are probably going to live inside of this details page when they're working inside this application. So we've given the ability to edit the show from the detail component here. We have a map component that shows us the physical location. We built in our tab system from the Tadabase Knowledge Center. We have form components to add. We have form components to edit. We have more details links that open up as pop-ups. Okay, so all of this information is displayed here. Okay, and then we have this little kind of small payroll system that we built in here where we have the ability to set the set statuses for both the actual event record and the schedule records for whether or not they've been paid, so that you can manage them and print reports and stuff, which I've done here as separate pages. All right, now the employee layout, right, that's specific for our offsite employees, our remote employees, or not remote, but our field service type industry employees, where they are traveling to a location, they are working the event, and then they go home. Okay, so this allows them to log in, see any event that is assigned to them as a logged in user, and then all of their payroll information from those previously worked events. And again, that all comes from the schedule record in this case, which has a connection to both an event and to a user. Okay, this particular table contains the the necessary information for their jobs pertaining to the actual event, but then also it also gives us the ability for them to record their feedback on that event, where basically confirming or denying that assignment, which would then give your team the feedback required to make changes to that particular schedule record. And then we can assign payment information to that schedule record, which in turn becomes their payroll record. Okay, and then let's see, is there anything else I'm missing? We have um, the employee layout has its own event details page because we don't need to show as much information as we did on the admin layout detail page. Okay, so while I don't typically like to rebuild multiple detail pages if I can avoid it, um, in this case, it's necessary because I don't want to show all of that information. I don't want the tab system. I don't want to have to, manage that so intricately on the other detail page. So right now we're just going to create a separate one, shows basic show information or event information, the map of the event, and who else is scheduled for this event, right? Your coworkers, so that you can communicate with them prior to the event. All right, so jumping over to the page builder or live app so you can see all this in practice now. Okay, so here is our dashboard as an admin. So if we want to say we only want to look where contracts are received, right? So we have 6 events that have contract received, where total contract of 150,000, right? And 6 of them are unscheduled. Okay, great. From here, we can actually go into a particular the detail page of that event, and we can edit it. We can see all the information, the map, and here's our tab system that shows us all of the relevant information. Okay, then we have our parent pages here with our payroll system and our payroll by event and payroll by employee, these grouped tables that allow us to see things or reports at a glance. Okay, now logging out from the administrator role, we are going to go to we're going to log in as an employee, so I can show you that quickly here as well. All right, so here we will log in as an employee. And this should redirect us to the employee dashboard now, where we could see how many events have I worked year to date, any upcoming events that I'm scheduled for. I can change my status here for whether or not I can actually work this event, and my year to date earnings from working past events and that recent payroll. And I can view that event by clicking either of these detail buttons. So if I wanted to look at the event that I worked previously on September 27th, then I can view that. I could see where it was, the information, and who I worked with. Okay. So that's an overview of this type of company portal slash ERP. Again, this is a larger scale application, but even what I've shown you now is not even to the full potential of what you could possibly build. Okay, so it's kind of a brief overview, but we will take some time. Obviously, we did take time to build this. And from here, I think is a great starting point for really expanding and running your business 100% on Tadabase. All right. Anybody have any questions on this particular build or this particular video? Of course, feel free to let me know. Other than that, that's it for this week's episode of Build It with Tim. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.